Alright, we are wrapped up with UFC 297, the pay-per-view is done, and I am here to talk about my thoughts. Dricus Du Plessis becoming the new UFC Middleweight Champion in a razor close fight. I'm going to let you guys know how I scored the fight. Also, Mayra Bueno Silva and Raquel Pennington being an absolutely terrible fight near the end, and I thought in the beginning it wasn't so bad, but we're going to get into my thoughts on that as well as the whole card. Guys, I'm going to be honest, I thought this pay-per-view was mid to bad, to be quite honest. I didn't think that there were much fun moments on the card, including the prelims. I watched the whole thing, and left kind of disappointed. Was really looking forward to a lot of these fights, and overall most of them went to a decision or were rather boring. We're gonna get into all that and more, but first I want to remind you guys to the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. It really helps the algorithm tell other people, hey, that people are liking this video. So if you guys just like, comment, and share, just do that. It really helps out the channel a lot. Now, UFC 297 wrapped up, and I want to first talk about a little bit of my overall thoughts about the rest of the card, not including the main and co-main event. And as I said in the beginning, I thought it was rather mid. There were some fun moments. Vicious with that massive win with that dominant 10-7 round. You know, Arnold Allen and Movsar Evloev was also a very fun fight where I thought Arnold Allen was actually going to win and wound up that he lost. It was a very close fight. The Chris Curtis fight was alright. It was pretty boring. And Mike Malott versus Neil Magny was an absolute fun fight to watch because as we saw, Mike Malott actually, you know, was doing rather well in the beginning, right? The first two rounds were pretty dominant. I would say most of the third round was dominant as well. That was till up until the last minute of the round where it looked like Mike Malott was just so tired he gave up, got flattened out by Neil Magny to a TKO. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. Like, Mike Malott, he was a mid away from clearly winning a decision, and the guy openly flattened out, like, yo, turn over, get into mount, hold him with all of your life. Like, look, I don't like shitting on other fighters, but I find it hard to believe that there was no way for Mike Malott to somehow win that fight and somehow stay alive for that last round. Like, I don't know, man, it just seemed like Mike Malott kind of just gave up. He was still down on the mat, did not get up for a while, and it wasn't like, you know, vicious ground and pound. A lot of them were landing on the arm, so it wasn't even like, oh, that he was knocked out or anything. I don't know, it just felt very weird for Mike Malott. Maybe he was just literally that gassed. I don't know. I'm not a professional fighter, so I don't like to go out and criticize people and accuse them of quitting or anything, but I just thought that that was very baffling and very confusing to me. So let's talk about the co-main event, and we're going to talk about this briefly. Alright guys, I promise you I'm not going to take up so much time, so please don't click off the video. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Raquel Pennington. I thought so many people slept on Raquel Pennington in this fight. I had picked her to win by decision, and if you look at her, I mean, she has the better resume, has better wins. Yeah, she's a little bit on the older side, but with that comes experience that she did use against Mayra Bueno Silva, and Mayra has had some good performances in the past, right? The ninja choke against Holly Holm. Though she lost that Manny Figueroa fight, she did have some moments in there. So I do understand, I guess, why some people had picked her, but I just thought that Raquel Pennington would get this done, would pressure her like she did, and kind of shut down a lot of the attacks of Mayra Bueno Silva. The first round went to Silva pretty dominantly, a lot of control time for Silva. But the last 4 rounds, I don't think you could really argue at all, went to Raquel Pennington. Especially those 4th and 5th rounds where Mayra Bueno Silva was gassed. And I don't like to talk about fighters quitting, but I am once again, you know, we see Mayra Bueno Silva, you know, laying on her back, trying to get Raquel Pennington on the ground, you know, just basically staying in her guard. Like, if you're down, right, and you know you're down, you want to get up, especially when there's that little time left, right? You're not going to get finished in that time, especially against Raquel Pennington. You could have gotten up and just tried your hardest to win the fight and at least show the fans that you're 100% in this. And it just seemed like Mayra Bueno Silva at some point in the fight just accepted defeat. I was confused as to why Pennington kept going back to the grappling. I felt like that's where Mayra had her advantage. If Mayra was going to win this fight, it was from a submission off her back, which she almost did get a few close submissions, right? She almost got a rear naked choke in the 5th round, I believe. So for me, it was just confusing. Like, I don't think that was the best game plan for Raquel Pennington. I feel like she could have possibly finished the fight if she just kept her distance, kept unleashing combinations, because every time it just looked like Mayra Bueno Silva did not know what to do because she was just so tired. But we're done talking about the co-main event. It was entertaining in the beginning, and I was like, oh, this isn't such a bad fight. Then it got pretty boring, and yeah, so Raquel Pennington's the new bantamweight champion, probably going to face Juliana Pena next, and we'll see how that matchup goes. I mean, I don't think anybody's really excited after this fight, but we're going to move on to Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis, the main event. I had predicted Sean Strickland by decision, right? It was almost close, and I honestly thought that Sean Strickland did have a pretty good chance of winning this fight. I think a lot of Du Plessis fans overestimated Du Plessis, and I still stand by this, and there's definitely a lot of things that people underrated about Du Plessis. We learned a lot about Du Plessis in this performance. How good is he? Because there was a lot of question marks. If you look at the fights before Whitaker, let's be honest, he does not look the best. But after getting that nose surgery, to me, it seemed like Du Plessis really improved. We saw in the Robert Whitaker performance, I mean, I don't want to say dominate, but he did kind of dominate Whitaker. Whitaker did not win the first round. He got finished in the second. Du Plessis did really good in that fight, and I thought showed that he was a better fighter than Whitaker. So we get to the first round. Sean Strickland's pumping that jab as we expected him to do, throwing the teep, trying to push back Du Plessis. Du Plessis not really pushing back so much, but rather staying in the middle. And I said to you guys, hey, he's going to try to set up that head kick. I thought that was a smart shot, and we saw him try and try again. And Du Plessis, he landed a few good, clean head kicks on Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland did not dip into them like I had predicted. I think Du Plessis should have maybe set it up a little bit better, trying to get Sean to dip that way. He was just kind of just throwing naked kicks, not really throwing, you know, a straight punch behind it. And I feel like that could have really damaged Strickland if he had done that. that. First round I gave to Strickland. Now the second and third round I think are the most controversial rounds. So the second round I gave to Sean Strickland. I was very close. I honestly debated at the end of the round, who do I give this round to, because it was super close, and you kind of felt the tide shifting towards Dricus Du Plessis. I felt like this was the beginning of, Dricus getting a hold of this fight. And the third round is the round that I gave to Du Plessis. After Du Plessis did just enough, it was another very close fight. I could see you giving that round to Strickland as well. And then I think round 4, unanimously, you have to give to Dricus Du Plessis. Sean Strickland was wiping the blood out of his eyes, which I don't think is a good idea. Look, it sucks, blood's coming in your eye and your natural reaction is to rub it. But that just lets the fighter know, hey, that eye is bothering you. I thought that we would see Dricus Du Plessis set up more shots to that side of the face, which he did in round 5 a little bit. Maybe try to throw a jab over that eye, covering it so he can't see at all, and then landing a right hand, because he won't know where that punch is coming from. Maybe mix in a body shot. And yeah, so I thought that Dricus Du Plessis won that round pretty clearly, and we saw Sean Strickland, I don't want to say slow down due to cardio, but slow down because of that cut. And then we get to round 5. I think that round goes to Strickland. I don't think you could really argue that it goes to Du Plessis. I knew Du Plessis said he won that round, but I didn't think so. I thought Sean won it. He landed good overhands, had a good end to the round, and I thought that Sean Strickland did win this fight 48-47. I know that some other people agree. I saw that Dana White agreed. In my opinion, I thought Sean Strickland won this fight, but like I said, 2 and 3 are razor close. So am I mad about the decision? No. Like I always tell you guys, going to the judges' scorecard, you're always going to risk human error, because sadly, this isn't a regular sport like the NBA or like football where you're keeping a point and a score and everything like that, and everyone's on the same page. It isn't like that. There comes controversy. Scoring in combat sports is so controversial, right? Because it's so subjective. There were so many scorecards in the whole card that were very questionable, including the Arnold Allen and Movsar Evloev fight, including a lot of other fights on the card. And if a judge fucks up, even if it's a terrible score, it does not matter. There is no appealing you will do. All your chances are gone just like that. But I still think that Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis, they tried their hardest. They were going out in the center, and they were swinging hard at each other. I also want to say I have a theory. I think that Sean Strickland broke his hand in this fight. I think he broke his right hand. The reason being is because Sean Strickland, I know he's a very jab-heavy fighter, but he threw no right hand. Like, it was really weird. And then even when he threw the right hands, we're seeing him throw overhand rights. When have we really seen Sean Strickland throw a lot of overhands, right? He's done it in the past, usually at the end of a fight when he's like saying, oh, let's get in the center. But he was throwing it throughout the fight. And to me, it looked like he was landing with his wrist and not really landing with the hand. Maybe there was something injured. Maybe the wrist was injured. Maybe he was just trying to land with the knuckles. I don't know. Just to me, it looked weird how he was trying to land that right hand. Let's get to the major question. What happens next? Dricus Du Plessis is the middleweight champion. To me, I think there's clearly 3 options, right? Number 1, you run it back with Sean. That was a very close fight. Came down to really 1 round, and it was razor close. Honestly, you could judge it either way. I don't think anybody is considered the loser of this fight. And I think Sean Strickland arguably has the best case for a title shot next. I mean, he beat Adesanya. He was on a 3-fight winning streak. Granted, it wasn't the best names, but he had a razor close fight with Cannonier. Lost to Pereira by knockout, which Pereira hits like a truck, so you can't blame him there. And outside of that, I mean, he has beaten a lot of good middleweights, and he's a good fighter. And he almost beat Du Plessis. On my scorecard, I thought he did. Number 2, you could run the fight with Israel Adesanya. That's a fight that has been hyped up, right? If you guys remember, at International Fight Week, Du Plessis and Adesanya, they faced off when Adesanya was the champ. The fight didn't happen because Sean Strickland had to step in for Du Plessis, and Strickland won, and now we got Strickland versus Du Plessis. It makes sense, however, Israel Adesanya did just lose his title. Not only did he just lose his title, he had 0 defense in this championship reign, right? He beat Alex in a fight that, let's be honest, I think a lot of people considered Israel's win against Alex a fluke. And I'm not saying it's a fluke necessarily, but it did look like Pereira had a lot of good moments in that fight and was about to finish Adesanya in that second round. Not to take away the knockout of Adesanya, because that was still, I think, the best knockout of last year. But you could run it with Adesanya. I mean, arguably, yes, he is one of the greatest middleweights of all time, so I do get it. I don't think it's that crazy. But number 3 is something that I don't think a lot of people are considering, is that Whitaker and Paulo Costa is happening next month. And I think if Whitaker wins, I don't think there's much of a case for Whitaker because he just lost to Du Plessis. But if Costa knocks out Robert Whitaker in vicious fashion, in a more impressive fashion than Du Plessis did, there's a strong possibility that we could see Paulo Costa get the next title shot, which I don't think should be the case either. I think that Sean Strickland is the most deserving out of these picks, and if not Strickland, you gotta go with Adesanya. Unless Paulo Costa really does something amazing in February, but outside of that, I mean, he would have had 2 wins in the past 3 years. And also, I do not want to hear about Khamzat Chimaev. He is not beating a middleweight, and I'm getting pissed off at Khamzat Chimaev because what the fuck is he tweeting about? UFC 300, he's fighting Dricus Du Plessis. That is the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard, and I'm so sick of Khamzat Chimaev just tweeting out bullshit that he does not intend on following up on. I'm sorry, but I'm sick of Khamzat Chimaev at this point. I am pissed off at the guy. I used to be a fan, but Jesus, what the fuck are you doing with your career now? But guys, with UFC 300 just around the corner, just a few months away, we heard of the fight between Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. I made a video talking about it. It's going to be on the screen. I also made a video talking about the top 5 fights I want to see this year. That video is also going to be on the screen. Check that out as well. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next one.